Hello friends, it's Christy Marcotte. I am sharing my cards using Love From Lizi's March 2019 card kit. Now this card kit is already sold out. It sold out really fast. So if you're ever interested in purchasing the Love From Lizi card kits, the best way to guarantee receiving one is to subscribe to the monthly kits. There are a few add-ons still available, but even a lot of those have already sold out. This kit is just beautiful. Pink and sparkly, fairies and florals. So I had a lot of fun with it. So getting started on my first card, I'm using Sweet Sunday sketch number 300. For the background of the card, I used two different pattern papers. This is the 6x6 pattern paper. And the floral paper is actually this really lovely pearlescent paper. And I didn't want to use the full sheet because it's beautiful. So I only cut like a 1/2 inch, maybe it was like a 3/4 inch piece off of it to put on both sides of that middle pattern paper. And then for the circle element of the sketch, I'm using one of the decoupage pieces. And the fun thing about all of the decoupage sheets is there's enough pieces in there, so if you really want to add some dimension, you could layer it up like 5 or 6 times, or you can just use a few of the pieces for a little less dimension and then also use those other leftovers on another card. So it really stretches some of the elements of the kit. So for this card, I only used 3 of the different layers of the decoupage. And the kit includes the foam dimensional squares. I did cut some of them in half just so that it fit nicely on this floral wreath that goes around the sentiment. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my card front onto a card base. Ran out of ATG, so I had to refill that one real quick. And then I like to add a little pattern paper strip on the inside of the card. And then I used just one more of the little decoupage pieces, the little butterfly, just for one last little pop. And then using some of the gold satin cardstock, this was one of the add-ons, I just cut out some small little circles and using those as the embellishment. And I actually made 2 cards using this sketch. Now moving on to my next card. I used Sweet Sunday sketch number 296. So I selected 2 different pattern papers from the 6x6 paper and then just cut this strip of the gold specialty paper that's included. And then I'm adding some of the clear gold mirror peel-offs. This is one of the new colors that Lizi recently introduced. So rather than use a full strip on each of the sides of the paper, I did just kind of cut them because those cut out areas aren't going to show once I put this circle right over it. So I use this lovely butterfly pattern paper that has a nice glitter effect on it, kind of as the main focus of the card. Then I'm going to add my little pattern paper piece to the inside of the card just for that little extra detail. I'm going to put a banner in that upper right hand corner. And then I pulled out this sticker sheet. So these are some add-on items. So it has these lovely butterflies on there that the background has a holographic look to it. So I decided to use 2 of them that coordinate with the cardstock that I chose. And then I wanted to add a sentiment. And so the stamp set has some like partial sentiments that combine beautifully with the add-on stamp set. So using both of them, I have the thanks very much. So I'm going to emboss those using some of Love From Lizi's Golden Crown embossing powder. So this is going to match just beautifully with all the gold touches on the card. So let's get my heat gun, and I do like to emboss from the bottom just so I don't get any extra little stray pieces flying about. And then I'm just going to cut off the end of this banner just so it's flush against the right hand side of the card. And then I'm just going to pop that up just slightly using some thin dimensional adhesive. And then once again, I did make 2 of the same card. Moving on to the next card. This is MFT sketch number 424, and this card is very pink, so that makes me super happy. I pulled out the brand new powder pink party embossing powder from Love From Lizi, and it's just gorgeous. So I went ahead and cut out this oval, put some ink all over it using the Versamark ink, and then just sprinkled the embossing powder covering that whole oval. So for some reason, a lot of these little holographic pieces did not stick in the main center of the oval. It just kind of got a few of them on the edge. So I'm not sure why that happened, but it's okay. It still turned out beautiful. Since I do have a lot of embossing powder on here, I wanted to make sure I got it melted really nice, and I don't want any little strays on there. So I did do a second one, just trying to see if I could get a few more of those little holographic pieces, which I did this time, but not quite as many as I was hoping for. So I used some of this specialty pink satin paper, cut out the little fairy die out of the center of there, and then I just used some liquid adhesive to attach that oval right over top of the embossed oval that I had. And so now I'm going to add some of this lovely sparkly pink ribbon onto the pattern paper. So rather than have that wider strip on the sketch, I just decided to use 2 strips of the ribbon, and I'm just going to put them right next to each other so it looks like one piece. So this card is going to end up with a lot of sparkle. It's very pretty. So I'm just adhering that down with some score tape, making sure those ends don't move. And then I'll attach that on to that matted pink layer. So this is again some more of this satin pink paper. And then I'll attach that onto my card base. And I did leave just like that thin little white border of the card base showing. So one thing I realized when I cut out the fairy is she's slightly tilted back. So I would have liked it a little more up and down, but I didn't want my oval to be crooked, so I figured it still worked out just fine. Maybe she's just kind of looking up toward the sky. So I just popped up that oval using some foam dimensional tape. And then for the circle elements on this sketch, I pulled out some of the buttons. So there's like 8 buttons that are included, and some of them have like flowers or butterflies on them, and then some just have a tone-on-tone print to them. So I used 2 of those, adhered those with some glue dots. And then using that same satin paper, I cut out my little banner for that upper corner. And then just a final touch, since that fairy needed just more sparkle, I added some of the Nuvo glitter drops, and this is just the white blizzard, so it's clear. And that is my finished card. So now moving on to my next set of cards. I used Sweet Sunday sketch number 265. And for the edges of the card, I'm using some of the green pearlescent paper that has like a gold sheen to it. And then just a piece of the pattern paper. And since I did cut this pattern paper, it's 3 inches wide, the paper is 6 by 6, I could easily make 2 cards. So I will show you the other one here in just a minute. I'm using another sheet of the decoupage. So right now I'm just going to punch out most of the pieces, and since I will be making 2 cards with this sketch, then I'll decide later which one I want to put on which card, like how many layers. But first I'm just going to add this gold satin mirror paper just as that little strip going off across the card. And mine's going to be a little different from this sketch. I don't always follow sketches exactly. Sometimes they're just a little bit of inspiration to get started on the card. So I'm going to start out by using the largest piece of the decoupage, just covering that completely with some foam dimensional tape, and then I'll adhere that to the card. And really you could finish right here. I mean, that has enough on it. It has the sentiment, it has all that lovely sparkle. But of course, if you want to add a little extra, you can layer it up with another piece of the decoupage. And since these are punch outs, they do have that small little tab on the edge. So you'll just see me use my scissors once in a while and just trim that piece off. So now I'll just go and decide which pieces I want to layer on which card. And then using some more of the little foam squares that are included. These are just so easy to attach because you just line them up perfectly with the other image because they're printed exactly the same. And then you can just add this extra little dimension to your cards. Now if you are in the US, mailing these will cost a little bit extra since they are thicker than it's like 1/4 of an inch thickness that you can mail without adding more dimension. But if it's a card you're just going to hand off to a friend, it's perfectly fine. I love the glitter that's on all of these decoupage pieces, and it's embedded on there, so it is not going to come off, which is really nice. Unlike some of the other glitters that I'm going to use later, I'm going to make a big mess with those. But this is nice if you want that sparkle and you don't want to worry about it contaminating anything. And then I'm cutting some of that foam dimension like really skinny just because the fairies have these really thin arms and I don't want them sagging down on the card. So I am trying to add those little pieces in there just to give it that support. And then just a final touch on here. I'm just going to add some of the sequins. I think I missed over it, but I did use some more of the clear gold mirror peel-offs. But I realized later that I actually forgot to put them on one of the cards. Luckily, it was very easy to just cut some more peel-off pieces and then put them on the card. So now I'm just using some of the Ranger Multi-Matte Medium adhesive to adhere all of these sequins, and I'm only using the gold matte color just because it matches really nicely with the gold in the paper and then the peel-offs on this card. And those are my 2 cards. So currently I am up to 7 cards using this kit. So now moving on to my next card. This is Reverse Confetti sketch number 13, and I figured it was time to do a shaker card. So the background paper is 2 of the cardstocks from the kit, and I did cut out this circle out of that background just because I'm going to use it later. And then I used a piece of the butterfly pattern paper for the main background of the card. And then I have some of this silver pearlescent specialty paper, and I'm just lining the edges of it with some of these beautiful peel-offs. So these are like a light green moon dust color. So let's go ahead and adhere that to my card. So I have all of my circles all cut out, including the little acetate for the window on the shaker. But first I'm going to go ahead and just use some more of this blue cardstock and put a banner right down the middle of the card. I didn't want to add any more pattern papers because it would just get a little too busy, especially because I'm going to have some more designs on the shaker window. So now it's time to go ahead and start building up this shaker. So out of the stickers, there's this large butterfly wreath. So it's all these butterflies in a row, and I wanted to use that as the main window of the shaker. So I went ahead and put my acetate on there, and then I kind of want to de-sticker the rest of it since the edges of the butterfly kind of hang off. So I just used some of the anti-static powder and wiped that all along the edges so it's not sticky anymore. And now I'm just using some of the foam dimensional tape, folded it in half, took off the backing on both sides so that I could easily manipulate it around this circle. It was a little bit short, so I had to cut another piece. Just want to make sure that I get it all the way end to end so none of the sequins want to sneak out. And then I don't know why I put adhesive on the back of this white circle. I kind of jump ahead sometimes and then I regret it later. So I need to remember to just wait until I'm actually to that step. So first I went ahead and put the sequins into that window. And then I was thinking I needed some kind of design behind where all the sequins are. And so I needed a sentiment. And I decided to use one of the sticker sentiments. But first I thought, well, I'll put a couple little flowers on there as well. And since I sort of move them around and you get some of the powder, they actually weren't the best choice to put inside this little window. So I would not suggest it unless you're going to add some extra adhesive. And the reason is because later the sequins kind of catch on that edge of the sticker that was peeling off, and since it's all sealed in there, I can't fix it. But overall, I think it still turned out just fine. So I got all of that sealed together, pressed nice and firm, so none of the sequins are going to escape. And then just a finishing touch, I'm going to add some more of the little sequins in the upper and lower corner of the card. And I'm using this jewel picker tool to pick up all of these little sequins. It just makes it so much easier. It has kind of a tacky end to it. So I just put my adhesive down and then go and select my sequin. And for this card, I am using an assortment of different colors just because there's a lot of different colors already on the card. And that is my finished card. So now moving on to my next set of cards. I just used some of the gray cardstock that's included in the kit, and then I chose some of the clear silver mirror peel-offs. This was another new addition to the peel-off family that was introduced. So I have the gold and then the silver. I'm putting 3 of them on the bottom of the cardstock. I used the widest width in the center and then just the really narrow ones on each side. And so now for the background, I pulled out some more of this lovely satin pink paper, die cut out that fairy. So next I'm going to do some embossing on the background. So there are 5 individual dandelion seed stamps varying in different sizes. So I kind of put them randomly, kind of as if they're being blown by either the wind or maybe a little girl. I know my daughter loves to pick up the dandelions and blow them everywhere. So I embossed them using the Tutu Pink embossing powder, which is this really soft pink with lots of sparkle in it. So you can definitely see some of the little glitter pieces that escaped from the powder. And since I did emboss that background, it does kind of curl up a little, so I use a lot of ATG on the background just to kind of keep it flat again. And then I'll do that again on this background paper before I put it onto my card base. And so now I'm going to adhere this pink fairy, and she has her one little arm reaching out, maybe like she's holding one of the little dandelion seeds. So that's what I'm going to have her do. She's just reaching out and grabbing onto the largest one. So this card is very pink and shiny, but I love the gray background. And then just for a sentiment, I chose one of the stickers, and I'm just going to mat that on that pink satin paper. And so overall, this card is very flat as well, so this would be a perfect one to mail. And then just a last little touch, I'm going to use some of the Nuvo drops. Just kind of sprinkling them around, maybe as if there's some more of the smaller dandelion seeds. And I did make 2 of these cards just using a different sentiment. For my next set of cards, I used Sweet Sunday sketch number 269. And for the background paper, this is actually a piece from the add-on 8x8 paper pack. So it's the exact same paper that comes in the kit, but it's in the little larger size. So I thought this would work well for the background since you can make 2 cards out of one 8x8 piece. And then the fairy paper is some of the 6x6 pattern paper from the kit. And then using just a few different cardstock, so some of them are the specialty cardstock and then some of it's just the solid cardstock, I cut 3 different sizes of these little banners. And then for this really narrow piece that goes across the card, I used some more of the gold pearlescent paper. And then again, there's that little extra piece of pattern paper going on the inside of my card. And I'll adhere that card front onto my card base. And then for the background of this rectangular piece, this is some more of the white pearlescent paper. And I decided to use the clear gold mirror peel-offs to sort of make a frame. So I'm putting them just slightly inside the edge so you can see that white. And since these are clear on the inside, so they have like gold foil on the outside, it has this really neat look of sort of a picture frame. And I'll just adhere that onto my cardstock layer, making sure to line up all of those banners so they're exactly where I want them to be. And it's hard to see, but one of them's like the really pale pink satin paper, and then the other is the brighter pink. And now I'm using one of these little puffy shaker stickers that are included. And like they are a sticker, but I want to make sure that it's going to stay adhered. So I did add some extra liquid adhesive to the back of it. And then I had it sit there for just a few minutes before moving on and adding a few sequins just to the side of the card. And so I did make 2 of this card. Now moving on to the next set of cards. So I actually had the intention of making these pretty similar, just in different colors, but they have a very different look by the time I'm finished with them. So I'm using some of these really large floral stamps. One of them is from the stamp with the kit, and then the other is the add-on stamp. So I'm going to emboss both of them. So I put down some anti-static powder, get my Versamark ink, and I do quite a few different stampings on there, or inkings, because I want to get a really good solid impression. And it sticks really, really well, so I have to like peel up my mini Misty lid really carefully because I don't want it to move. And so for the one going on this lighter blue paper, this is the Forest Green embossing powder. And I did get just a few little strays, so I just pulled out a paintbrush that I used just to wipe away little pieces of embossing powder. And then before I heat emboss that one, I'm going to get the other one ready. So I cleaned up my Misty and the stamp, and now I'm using another one of the stamps. And this is from the add-on stamp set. So again, I'm going to emboss it, just putting down my anti-static powder, lots of Versamark ink. And I'll do that one a few times again, just to get a nice solid impression. And I actually like the look of it, even without embossing it. It just leaves that hint of a design on there. Of course, the embossing powder really makes it shine. So this is the Sparkling Snow embossing powder, and it is just beautiful. So it's white and it has all the silver glitter in there. So now these are large images, so I'm just going to go ahead and heat emboss them, and they did take a little bit of time. I like to do it from the bottom, and then I come around and do it on top. And especially this Sparkling Snow, I ended up with all kinds of little glitter pieces, but it's so beautiful. So I did pull out my paintbrush again, just trying to wipe away some of those extras, but you will just constantly see them on my work table. It's this glitter that's going to stay probably for weeks. So now on this dark blue paper, I'm using some of the clear silver mirror peel-offs, and I'm doing the same as I did on the previous card. I'm just sort of making a frame. So I have the peel-offs just slightly in from the edge. I'm just going all the way to each end, and then I'll cut off just that little bit of extra and then tuck all of those little ends behind. See how it makes that really fun frame? And this paper is just a little warped because it was heat embossed. So once again, I'm going to use a ton of adhesive on the back to just try to flatten that out. See, once again, lots of glitter. You'll see me wiping that away a lot here. So now I'll just set that one aside and then get busy on the next card. And since this one doesn't have as much of an edge going all the way around, I decided to just use a few of the peel-offs on the left-hand side. So I did use the silver clear mirror again, and then just this time I used 3 different sizes, going from the largest to the smallest. And then I'll just tuck those behind and then adhere that onto some dark green cardstock that matches well with the color of the embossing powder. Lots of adhesive again. And then I'll adhere that card front onto a card base. And I did have to trim just a little bit off the edge because I didn't cut it perfectly the first time, obviously. So now I'm going to go ahead and stamp some of the sentiments. And I'm using them from the add-on stamp set. I love all of the general sentiments that are included in both of the stamp sets this month. It's always nice to have just general sentiments on hand. There's happy birthdays and for yous, happy anniversary, thanks. It's just a really good assortment, and I know I'll be using them quite often. So I'm going to do happy anniversary on one of the cards and then for you on the other. And I wanted to make sure that the happy anniversary was nice and straight, because I'm going to cut that one in a banner, whereas the for you I'm just going to use a circle die to cut that one out. So I'm just going to try to figure out placement for this sentiment, since it's going to go right across all of that greenery. And I did decide it needed to be layered in that same green cardstock. So I just cut a little fishtail out of one of the ends, and then I'm just going to trim that using my paper trimmer. Cut the little fishtail again. And I decided I'm going to pop it up just using some real thin dimensional tape. But then before I'd adhere that down, I decided that little space on the side needed something. At first I thought I would use one of the stickers, like one of the little floral pieces. Then I changed my mind and used some more of the peel-offs, because you can never go wrong with adding peel-offs. So this time I'm using 5 of the little pieces and just trimming them off the end. So I varied in the widths. I have the widest in the middle, and then they just get thinner on the way out. So I get all 5 of those in place, and I can just adhere that to my card. And then I'll go back to the other card. I kind of bounce between both of them. And I just used a stitch oval die for that sentiment. Nice and simple. I like that it's real clean with just the dark blue and then the white and silver. And then just a finishing touch, I'm going to use some of the sequins on the card. And on the happy anniversary, I'm using these, it's like an iridescent blue, and it kind of blends in with this blue cardstock, so it's very subtle, but it still adds that just hint of shine on there. But then I decided not to put any sequins on the other card. Instead, I pulled out some more of the Nuvo clear glitter drops. It's a white blizzard color. Just put 2 of them on the side of the sentiment, and then decided to add 3 more in that upper right hand corner. And there are my cards. So now I am actually up to 14 cards, and I still have a few more to go. Now moving on to my next set of cards using Mojo Monday sketch number 376. So I have 2 different pattern papers for the background. I have more of a tone-on-tone for the bottom part of the card, and then some of these really lovely butterfly patterns with the greenery around it for the upper part. And then I pulled out some more of this beautiful sparkly pink ribbon. It's definitely my favorite one. And I'm just adhering that in place with some score tape and lots of ATG as usual. Putting that onto my card base, and then adding that little strip of pattern paper on the inside of the card. And so this set of cards, I'm going to use some more of the decoupage. I really love the decoupage that Lizi includes in her kits. They're so much fun. So again, I'm just going to cut off all of those little tabs that are on the ends of all the pieces, because they are a punch out. But they do punch out really easily. I've never had any of them tear before. So now I'm just going to use some of the white pearlescent paper for behind this butterfly image. Then I'm just trying to figure out placement of where I'm going to put that sentiment before I start building up that decoupage piece. So I'm not really following this sketch very closely. This is definitely just a little more inspiration, because I've already changed it up a little bit. So for this card, I'm putting that image on the right hand side instead. And I'm going to add some of the layers. So it has this butterfly and then 3 of these little jars in front of that butterfly with fairy dust, and then also a little fairy trapped inside, popping up, and some of the extra little butterflies. And then for the sentiment, I want to keep it fairly even on the card. So I'm just going to add some foam dimension on the left-hand side of that before adhering it down. I'll just use ATG for the side that's going to be right over the little butterfly there. And then just a final touch on this one, adding some more of those Nuvo glitter drops, just the clear ones again, or the white blizzard. I always call them clear. And I did make 2 cards using this sketch, although they're very different looking. So I probably should have recorded both of them, but I do have a picture here so you can see the other card. So at this point, I already have 16 cards. So I could have just said, well, we're good, we're done. I really only needed to do 10 cards, but there were a few other elements in the kit that I really wanted to use. So I decided to just keep going with a couple more cards. So I'm using some of this fairy paper for the background, some more of this gold pearlescent paper. I line that again with those gold clear mirror peel-offs. The green paper in the background is actually some more of that pearlescent paper that is included in the kit. I'll just put my little pattern paper on the inside. And now I'm going to use one of these add-on stickers. So they have a little bit of foam dimension behind them. And then I really wanted to find a way to use a few of these little wands. So these little star wands are silver. They have a little hole on the end, so you could attach them with some thread and have them dangle on the card. But I had this idea to have them have those stars sort of sticking out from behind this sentiment piece. And since that little dimension behind there is about the same thickness as the wands, I thought this would work out really well. But I want to make sure that they stay attached. So I'm using all kinds of different adhesives just to try to make sure they're not going to come apart. So I have like liquid adhesive underneath them. I put score tape pieces to hold them on. And then I'm just trying to even out all of the dimension by adding some more of the foam squares. And then I felt, well, that's still not enough. Let's add a little more of this score tape. Can you tell I like things to stay put together? So now that I think we're good, I'm going to go ahead and remove the backers and then figure out where I want to place it on the card. And then once again, I should have known it wasn't going to be enough for me. I needed some more adhesive. So now I'm trying to add a little bit of the liquid adhesive underneath just the little star because it was kind of popping up a little bit. So I put just a dab of it on a scrap piece of paper, and then I'm just trying to sneak it underneath that star. And this does hold really well after I have it sit for just a little while. And then another thing I probably should have done before putting all this down, I decided to add just a few more little peel-offs to sort of frame that gold pearlescent piece. So I just put them on the side, and then I just trimmed the edges, so it worked out really well. And then I used some more of that green pearlescent paper and cut a little banner. And then just one last finishing touch, put a couple drops of the white blizzard Nuvo glitter drops. And there is my card. Okay, one final card, and this one is definitely not my normal style, but it's always fun to try something a little bit different. So I'm just going to do a real simple watercolor wash background. So I did this in this really lovely green, and I wanted to add a little paint splatter, and this is not something I do very often, so I'm not an expert, but I quickly realized it was going to make a mess. So I pulled out my little box to protect my desk, just did some quick splattering on there, and I did leave some time and let all of that dry. And I do apologize, I should have taped down this mat because it's moving a lot, which I didn't notice while I was making the card, but I noticed it a lot while I was doing the voiceover, and it was kind of even making me just a little dizzy watching it. So sorry about that, I will remember to tape it next time. So I put some score tape on the back because it's watercolored and it definitely warped up quite a bit. And then I'm just putting it on to some of this gold satin paper. So I love this green and the gold together. It's very pretty. So lots and lots of adhesive before I put that onto my card base. I did figure out which side do I think is the top and which one's the bottom. And so the thing that I really wanted to use was the stencil in the kit. It has this nice big sentiment. So it has love and it has thanks. So I decided to use the thanks. So I'm using some Nuvo mousse, and this is the Indian gold color. And then just a little plastic spatula. I'm just kind of smushing it all into the stencil, and I'm just holding this in place. So I'm hoping it doesn't move as I do it, which it doesn't, thank goodness. Again, probably should have taped this down, but I don't do this kind of technique very often. So very slowly peel that up, and for the most part, I'm really happy with how it turned out. So it adds a nice, just a little bit of dimension and lots of pretty shine, and it matches the satin paper, the gold satin paper, really nicely. And then I risk it and I stamp without using my mini MISTI, just that very much on there, but it stamped perfectly. And then just a final touch, going to add some of the gold sequins around the top corner and the bottom corner of the card. So I love how this turned out. Very simple, just a little more technique and a little more time with all of the drawing. So that brings me to a total of 18 cards. So here's just a quick recap of all of the 18 cards I made using Love From Lizi's March 2019 card kit. So again, this card kit is sold out. There are still some add-ons available, so I will provide links in the description if you want to go and check those out. If you do love the kits, I highly suggest subscribing. That way you don't miss out on them, since they always sell out. Now I'll just show you what I have left over. So there is the cardstock, one full sheet, some of the specialty pieces, and I thought I had used all of the pattern paper, but I did find one full sheet of 6x6 left. I used 3 of the decoupage sheets, just part of the one with the sentiment on there. I still have a lot of the stickers left over. And then of course a full sheet of the foam squares, a little partial sheet, lots of ribbon, still tons of the peel-offs, some sequin mix. I have 6 of the buttons still. And then this is the one item I forgot to use, was the little iridescent fairies. So I have 1 more of the little puffy stickers. Of course I still have the stamp set and the Nuvo drops, 1 more of the little fairy wands, then the die, and I also didn't use that little fairy stamp. And then of course I still have the stencil. So lots of stuff still left. I could make plenty more cards. This kit was so much fun. I love all the unique items that Lizi always includes in her kits. Be sure to check out Love From Lizi's YouTube channel, where you can see the rest of the design team members' videos with a lot more inspiration. We all have different styles, and I think that makes it so much fun. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.